It's the worst of the CBC for January 4th, 2021, and the show where I watch the CBC so you don't have to. All right, today we get to... it was hard to decide what was the biggest omission and what was the worst covered story, because they covered two stories that both had massive omissions, so it's going to be like a two-parter that... Okay, so it's two things. We'll go to the first one that drives me crazy. It was just a little hit, but the CBC's hero, Qasem Soleimani, arch-terrorist, was killed a year ago on January 3rd, and they had a little memorial segment for him. And it just drove me crazy, okay? So one, they say Iranian general that was killed in the deadly drone strike in Iraq. No mention, okay, big omission, no mention the fact that the Iraqi embassy was under attack by Hezbollah forces before that. No mention of what the hell is an Iranian general doing in Iraq, right? Then they showed the protests, right? They showed the protests in the morning of, the Iranians on the street, with signs saying, America, get out of Iraq. Well, what's Iran doing in Iraq? Like, everyone knows that Iraq is basically a proxy state of the mullahs at this point. So just not covering that. Also the fact that they're bemoaning mass gatherings and how dangerous it is and blah, 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 Donald Trump. And they're showing a literal mass gathering, no masking, social distancing, of people in Iran forced to protest against America. And I know this because I have friends who grew up in Iran under the Islamic Republic. And they will tell you that at school days, they had certain times where school kids and public servants, they all have to go to anti-American protests. If the Iranian regime needs propaganda, okay, they send people, they force people to go on the streets, they take attendance, you chant death to America, and then you leave, and only the real hardliners stay. But they get that massive picture to then give to the Western media, so their propaganda outlets, like the CBC, can go on and push terrorist propaganda. So no mention of the fact that Qasem Soleimani, actual head of the Quds Force, listed as a terrorist organization, right, called a general, not an actual terrorist, which he is under Canadian law, also killed with an Iraqi militia commander. No, Hezbollah commander, another terrorist organization listed by our government, a terrorist. Another terrorist. 2 terrorists killed. Okay, so amid all the context around that, not to mention the fact that today Iran passed a resolution in Parliament calling for the destruction of Israel in 20 years. They literally put it like, our goal to destroy Israel. They actually passed it through the Parliament. No mention of that, just their beloved terrorist arch leader was died. So CBC is mourning the loss of a terrorist 1 year later, and it drives me crazy. I'm going to avoid yelling about the Iran deal right now. We're going to everyone take 3 seconds so I can compose myself. Next story. Okay, the COVID and the vaccine stuff. Okay. All right, you guys know I'm not on the anti-vax train. You guys know that I've told you, yes, you're legitimately allowed to be skeptical of this vaccine because of the mRNA concerns. We haven't used that in humans, blah, 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 blah. But what they are doing is they're trying to push, like, why aren't more vaccines being rolled out? And why are we storing them? And what's the waste? Okay, gonna cut to the chase here. The thing that you did not... I've solved the mystery, guys. Government bureaucracy, okay? So Israel and Bahrain are leading the world in vaccination rates per million or whatever the standard is. And Israel's destroying it, not even close second is Bahrain, but not even close third to Bahrain, I believe, is the UK. So now the reasons, how are they doing so well? Basically, they're throwing away the bureaucracy, right? With Canada, where it's like, okay, we need to make sure we have the second dose to make sure everyone gets it, instead of saying like storing 50% capacity, like you should be storing 10% capacity, right? Have some checks and balances, but make sure you're getting vaccines out there. We should be vaccinating 18 hours a day, right? If you want to reach whatever, everyone who voluntarily wants to get it, blah, blah, blah. Guys, stop with the comments. Okay, so the reason we are not doing it is because we're putting too much government bureaucracy. The Israelis are not. What they're doing is saying, okay, these people first. But then if there are leftovers, they're basically going out in the street and saying, come on in, we have leftovers, just get them now, get vaccinated. We won't let any go to waste. We're not going to be throwing them out. Not Andrew Cuomo offering a $1 million fine if you're vaccinated out of line, and then putting these extra layers of bureaucracy in. And this is what's killing people. And I have family working inside the nursing homes, and I know this. It's like the nursing homes are so afraid now to let someone die of COVID. They're ignoring family requests to let people come off life support and just die with dignity, right, as they would have wanted. They're like, no, we have to make sure they're propped up long because we can't have COVID death statistics. So they're going to the absolute math to just appease the statistics that the media is pushing uncritically, right? And it's not healthy for anyone. And the reason why we are not vaccinating at better rates is bureaucracy. Bureaucracy. What we need to do is realize, hey, it's public health. Get out the bureaucracy. We're storing, because you need 2 shots. We're going to, give out 90% we have, keep 10% in stock for people to get their second dose, and we'll just assume the supply keeps up, and then 50% immunity is better than no percent immunity. Keep doing that, and we'll make sure that critical people like, doctors, nurses, PSWs, frontline workers in healthcare, and the vulnerable, super vulnerable, they'll be made in the sort of secondary priority list for that 10% capacity. Other than that, with the other 90%, just get them out there. Just get them out there, go around the clock, have people, if they can check, coming off the streets and get vaccinated if they need to. Just throw away the bureaucracy. Stop trying to manage everyone's time. Stop getting you're not going to have a government worker who works 8 hours a day, and of those 8 hours, they work 2.5 hours, and of those 2.5 hours, they're productive for 2.5 minutes because they have a government job and they can never be fired. And they're, making timelines, everyone, he'll come here and he'll come here, and wait for your timeline. Get rid of the bureaucracy and you can get to herd immunity faster. That's the answer. They didn't even think of that one. And that's because they are the CBC, and I've solved the problem, everyone. So what is today's episode on the Rosemary Barden scale? It gets 10 Qasem Soleimanis. 10 Qasem Soleimanis and an Osama bin Laden out of 10 Rosemary Bardens. Thank you, tax dollars I paid, for going to support arch-terrorist Qasem Soleimani and the Islamic Republic of Iran.